Why become a real estate agent in the first place? And at what age did you actually step into that? Because you were very young, right?
Yeah, so it was 18, 19. I stepped into it when I was 18, realistically. And to be completely honest with you, I was too egotistical to accept a job at Target. I just sat there and I actually just broke down in the parking lot because it was like, I had all these big dreams and aspirations, and I'm sitting here wondering if I can make an $800 a month apartment payment and simultaneously buy food. I thought, well, the only other thing I can do is real estate. So I went from being a very low producer to actually doing, I think it was like $3.5 million worth of deals in a 45-day period. The momentum started snowballing and really kept going from there.
Building and exiting an 8-figure company at the age of 26, that's exactly what my next guest on this YouTube video did. Evan Stewart. He goes by the Real Evan Stewart on social media. If you guys haven't heard Evan's story, you absolutely need to watch this video. Extremely inspiring. You know, he went from literally barely having enough money to like eat to building an 8-figure company and exiting it at age 26. And in fact, that was the second company he'd ever built. So he's done a lot of really big things for someone that's very young, and he's very dedicated and focused on his future. One of the most well-spoken guys I've ever met in real life. I know you guys are going to love it. So let's just dive into today's video with Evan Stewart, where we're going to discuss his backstory, how he built the company, and some advice he has for other budding entrepreneurs. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here with the Real Evan Stewart, all the way from Dallas, Texas as well. So it's been absolutely amazing to have Evan join us for our Cashflow Tribe boot camp here in Toronto. Amazing event. You guys missed out on some amazing guest talks by Evan. But before we even get into all that, let's just talk about your backstory, Evan.
Sure, I'd love to.
So $35 million at age 26 is when you exited one of the companies you've built.
Right, right.
That's massive. Can you kind of paint what that picture actually looks like?
Well, for me it was, actually it was funny because that ability to be successful in that business was a compilation of needing to be successful in, and not being successful in other businesses and learning from mistakes, but ultimately it was also a need because I still am, a young man. I wasn't even a younger man. And if you're going to go out and do something bold when you're young, you really need to do it right. Mm-hmm. But one of my abilities really is to pick up in attention to detail. And I started noticing things that weren't working. So that was a real estate company. It was traditional brokerage of deals. So you talk a lot about investing and whatnot. We were on the retail side, with the specialty in luxury and new construction. So it didn't start there, obviously, but eventually it moved up to work in really high net worth deals. But there were things that I had started noticing that people were doing, in my opinion, wrong, because real estate is a wonderful industry. I mean, it's afforded both of us an amazing opportunity, but it's really antiquated at the same time. I mean, it's very old in a lot of its thinking and very traditional, which is fine, but I started looking around, and when I just dropped in, no experience. I was so inexperienced my first day. What happened was I went into the company just as an agent. I was at this company, and they brought me in, and they sat me down in front of this stack of binders. I mean, it was like on the table. I mean, it was tall, and they said, these are all the people who have cold called into our office, sign call or something over the last 5 years. Call them back and see if they want to buy a house. So I go, okay. I mean, day one, right? Day one, out of the gate, the very first thing. No culture meeting or anything. No, it was just start calling. And so I open up a binder, and it's just like a spreadsheet, like a name, a number, and maybe an address, just like pages and pages. And I pick up the phone and just call. And the first person's like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm Evan. I'm with this group and with this company, and wanted to see if you still wanted to buy a house. Like, no. I'm like, okay, whatever. Pick up the phone. The next person says, well, actually, I do have a question on a property. Person 2. I say, okay, I was so inexperienced, I didn't even know how to log into the MLS to get the property information. So I'm like, okay, I'll call you back. So I finally figure out how to get in. They help me pull up the property. They go, call him back. Here's the information you need. Great. He goes, how much is it? I didn't even know where to find the number. So I'm like, oh, I'll call you back. So anyway, we had about 2 or 3 callbacks, and needless to say, that didn't turn into a client, because if your agent can't say where the house is or how much it is, it's probably not the agent you need to work with. And so I kind of laughed about it, but really that's how it started. And so I was kind of dropped in this water of you've got to cold call and you don't foster relationships and you just hit the pavement. And for me, I have a really high relational need. And I found that a couple of big things that I didn't like and I wanted to change. First of all, I believe people deserve a relationship. You heard me talk about that this weekend. I believe that a transaction is a byproduct of a vested relationship, not the goal of the relationship. And I recognize that so many people, I don't like, my friend who's an investor. I don't like my agent. I don't like this. I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to be the ass that was calling people at 6:30 in the middle of dinner asking if they wanted to sell, because I wouldn't want that done to me.
Yeah.
And then the second thing was thinking creatively around how we could actually push and build. And so I started to just apply things that I didn't like. I would have my phone, put it on voice record, put it in my pocket, have conversations with people, and if they didn't want to work with me, I would call them back and say, hey, you know what, Matt, totally respect the fact that you went with another agent. I actually would love to take you out to dinner and talk about that. They'd be like, well, why? Like, why do you want to talk? No, I don't want to rake you over the coals. I want to know what specifically about my pitch you didn't connect with so I can be better. And see, when you start doing that, people actually tell you.
Yeah.
It's like free dinner and I get to rake this guy over the coal. All right, let's go. But I started learning very quickly, and I lost a lot up front, but I didn't lose later. So you might say things like, you know what? I really didn't like this. I really didn't like how this came across. I didn't like your presentation here. This felt kind of salesy. I felt like you were being pushed. And I started to tailor my pitch based on real feedback, education over speculation. And as I pushed forward, simple things like, from a marketing standpoint, so many people talk about hitting the mailbox with a flyer or something like that, which works obviously on the investing side, but from an agency standpoint, it's not nearly as popular. Like, I can hit your mailbox all day long, but if you drive down your street and you see Evan on 4 signs on your 6-sign street, you're calling the person on the sign.
That's real social proof.
That's real social proof. That's a platform of validity. And so I recognized, like, wait, what's going on here? So I started noticing, like, why do agents take houses off the market during the holidays? Like, isn't that the time people not from your area are going to your area? See, I would start backlogging these people. I want to wait until January. Tell you what, let's list in November. And all we need to do is sign a 60-day agreement. We'll put a sign in your yard. Why? Because now when family comes to visit over the holidays and maybe they've been trying to move mom closer, Evan's got 8 signs in a 15-part community, and people coming in to look at Christmas lights. I mean, all these different opportunities. It's like, why is nobody doing this? Oh yeah, let's list in January. I'd be like, no, let's list now. People want to come see your Christmas lights. And so, that type of diligence and obedience and work, candidly, that over the 5, 6, 7 years, we gained traction. Eventually it was about 7 years, and then made my exit, built the little struggle bus I had at the beginning to the pretty large conglomerate we had at the end.
So let's take a step back and talk about why become a real estate agent in the first place, and at what age did you actually step into that? Because you were very young, right?
Yeah, so it was 18, 19. I stepped into it when I was 18, realistically, and I was entrepreneurial. I just exited another company that wasn't nearly as crazy, but it was enough to get me a little bit of money in the bank. And to be completely honest with you, I was too egotistical to accept a job at Target, because I was like, I don't need to work it. I don't want to be and so because of that, I was like, I need to do something that allows me to have my name in lights or something like that. And I've been humbled a whole lot since then, but in my arrogance, I thought, I deserve more. More recognition. And so legitimately, because I was too egotistical to accept the jobs at Verizon and Target that I had found, I thought, well, the only other thing I can do is real estate, because I have an interest for it. And so I literally went onto Craigslist and found somebody looking for an agent in their office and accepted the position and got my license. And it was a horrid start. It was the wrong people, and you probably don't find the very best job opportunities on Craigslist, but it got me in. And so that was really helpful.
And then what kind of gave you permission to, or how did you start taking a critical look at the business, and what made you want to change the approach that you were seeing from the existing employer, right? Because they're the expert.
Yeah.
And especially a lot of younger people would struggle to go against the grain in an environment, especially if the option is keep this job or go back to Target. Yeah.
Well, and that's a great question. And honestly, it was, I have a really good intuition. And I was just looking around, and I thought, you know what? I bet, I don't know, but I bet it can be done better. And I looked around the office, and I saw things in this office, people were lazy. someone would come in at 11 and leave at 3. The guy sitting behind me was like, "What are you doing?" He's about to head out. I'm like, "Oh, you going on a show?" And he's like, "No, fiance and I, we're going to go see a movie." It's like 4 on a Wednesday, And I was sitting there thinking, why are these people not doing, don't they understand that this is important? And so I started looking around, started noticing things that I felt could be done better, where you don't have to be an expert to know that if you work 4 hours a day, you're not going to produce the results you want. And then the other component of that, honestly, was a moment in my life where I was doing things their way. And I was pounding the pavement, and I was, doing all this stuff and working hard. And there was a moment where it was about 11:30, 12 o'clock, middle of the week, at night. And I went to Target, ironically, to try and get some groceries and stuff like that. And I was trying to figure out how much I could buy for the week without withdrawing my account, or without overdrawing my account.
Yeah.
And I was so frustrated. I was driving a car that I bought off of my grandparents' estate when they passed, and it was a good blessing to have the car, but it wasn't one that I really was proud of. And my rent was $800 a month, and that was coming up. And I'm thinking, what the heck am I going to do? And I just sat there, and I actually just broke down in the parking lot, because it was like I had all these big dreams and aspirations, and I'm sitting here wondering if I can make an $800 a month apartment payment and simultaneously buy food. And again, I had this thought where I'm going to succeed or fail on my own. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you could call, family," or I wasn't going to call my parents, even though I know that they'd immediately and graciously give what I needed. I was like, I need to figure this out on my own. But in that tension, it was really emotional for me. And so that was really the moment that I went back and started these data points. I think I can do it differently. I don't know about this. I see that, that was the time that I really was forced to look back hard at what I was doing and recognize, hey, some of these things that I've been thinking about and feeling, I should probably move from this, because the last 9 months really hasn't been working very well in my favor.
Love it. I love the openness and honesty too there. That's amazing, man. A lot of people would just naturally come with, after a $35 million exit, a large ego. So I really appreciate you being so open and vulnerable with the audience. Sure. So was there a point where you started getting momentum, or a tipping point? And was that when you were still at that first brokerage, or had you already moved on and started business?
I had moved on. The people that I had started with we weren't aligned morally and ethically, and there were some things that were starting to be done there that I didn't want a part of. And so I felt, really for the sake of, I don't want to get caught in any legal mess, I backed out, because it was starting to get a little rough. And so I had transitioned over, and even from there one more time over, trying to find my home and good culture. Again, before I started building my thing, you have to get plugged into other cultures before you really identify what you want in yours. And it started popping. I started planting seeds, and I started being relational over transactional, and not caring about the transaction, but taking people, great people like you, we'd sit down, we'd just talk about life. And we talk about the important things. And I thought, if I could be known as the person you can call for all the things around the thing that you do, then I can most likely be the person you call when it's time to do my specialty. So if you call me for referrals and landscapers and housekeepers, and I'd have people say, "Hey, I want to take the wife on a date. Where do I go?" "Oh, well, you should go here. Allow me to help you with that." And all these things to bring relational value. I just thought you do that with enough people over a long enough period of time, then eventually they're going to call and say, "Hey, I know that you've been working with us on this, but we're thinking about how much is our house worth? What can we do here?" And so for me, it was months and months, and I don't know the exact amount of time, but it was definitely a couple of months for sure, maybe 4, 5, 6 months of every single day, 6, 7 days a week, consistently having conversations like that, meeting great people, talking with them. "Matt, you know what? I absolutely love spending time with you. Hey, if you don't mind me asking, who's someone important in your life that also lives in Dallas that would appreciate a relationship with an agent that actually cares about their best interest? I'd love to make my way to him or her, because I know great people attract great people." And what's her cell phone number? You know what I mean? And so doing that over months and months and months and months and months, you get to meet great people. So one day I get a call. I was able to come on as a co-agent on my first bigger listing, which was about $980,000, which for me at the time was monumental. And I came on as a co-agent, and the next day I get a call from one of my clients. It says, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling my house and buying another house." "Okay, what are you looking for?" "I'm looking for this, this, and this up to $1 million. Oh, that's exactly, to a T, the one I just listed. So all cash, 25 days later, I double-ended $1 million deal. In between that time, we also listed and sold his house, and all the momentum just started hitting.
Yeah.
So I went from being a very low producer to actually doing, I think it was like $3.5 million worth of deals in a 45-day period, and got paid. It's like, oh, that's pretty interesting. So let's just keep applying these things that are working, and then that's when I started to really dive in and invest back into those systems that started to produce results, and the momentum started snowballing and really kept going from there.
And then, so at what point did you take this from like a one-man show to a business? Because there's a real difference between being an entrepreneur, like being like the solopreneur.
Right, where you do everything. Yeah. Well, that's a great question. When I started recognizing there was a value on my time, where I started moving into higher end price points, not because I was trying to be bougie, but because I recognized that as an expert, my time should start to be worth more. So I started setting these thresholds. Hey, within the next 200 days, I will no longer take listings below 300. Within the next 200 days, I will no longer take listings below 500. Eventually, and then you start working with, $3, $5, $7, $12 million properties. All of a sudden, you no longer have to take listings at a certain price point, right? And so I was recognizing that I was starting to do a lot of business, and there was one point where it was just me. I had, we'll call it, I don't even know, 15, 18 listings active, another 9 deals in the pipeline, another 12 active buyers, and it's just me.
Cashflow Tribe.
Hey YouTube, have you checked out Cashflow Tribe yet? It doesn't matter whether you're an experienced, seasoned investor or brand new to the game. I can probably predict if you're currently not having the level of success you want as a real estate investor, it's due to one thing. That one thing is you're not making enough offers, plain and simple. You need to be making more offers as a real estate investor if you want to hit those big, audacious goals that you're setting for yourself. So here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe, that's the community that myself and Ben were making together. And so Ben's actually so busy trying to provide value to you guys that he had to take off there. But here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe is really a one-of-a-kind community focused on results. That's the difference between us and everyone else. We want to get you guys those results. I'm tired of seeing people commenting on my YouTube channel for 2-3 years now, but they're not making offers. What's holding you back? I'm going to guess that it's either a lack of confidence or a lack of competence. And we cover both of those things in Cashflow Tribe. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you guys a 14-day free trial offer. You can join Cashflow Tribe completely free, get it tested out. If you like it, great, stay and pay. If you don't, well, I hope you at least find one great idea that you can take away and use to start making more offers, gain more deals, and finally start making the money related to real estate investing that's probably why you're watching my YouTube channel. So let's do this, guys. Let's make 2020 your year.
Cashflow Tribe.
So I started setting these thresholds. Hey, within the next 200 days, I will no longer take listings below 300. Within the next 200 days, I will no longer take listings below 500. Eventually, and then you start working with, $3, $5, $7, $12 million properties. All of a sudden, you no longer have to take listings at a certain price point, right? And so I was recognizing that I was starting to do a lot of business, and there was one point where it was just me. I had, we'll call it, I don't even know, 15, 18 listings active, another 9 deals in the pipeline, another 12 active buyers, and it's just me. And I'm making money, but boy, am I working. And I'm working.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and thought, this is not, there are things that I'm doing right now that are not the highest and best use of my time. And so I did what actually I explained at the last Cashflow Tribe Bootcamp, which is I broke down my time. And this is really what I believe you go from self-employment to business ownership, is I broke down my time, highest value to lowest value, and highest value is the closest to the money, right? So that's closing deals, that's working with my A-plus clients, that's getting referrals and driving relationships, that's showing property that needs me to show it, right? Really intricate, 12,000 square foot mansions that have super tiny details and they're very specific. Maybe not the 3-bedroom, 2-bath that everybody's seen before, that type of thing. And what I started doing is I started cutting off the bottom of the list and delegating all the things that were not the highest and best use of my time. So following up on emails, setting appointments, setting up showings, working back with clients, doing paperwork, things like that. Okay, circle that, cross it off, that's an assistant. And start working my way up to where eventually my time was only spent doing the things which were truly income producing activity and the highest and best use of my time. So that transition took quite a bit of time over the, eventually you earn more money and you can pour it back into the business and you tweak here and you tweak there. But over the course of a couple of years, before you know it, I've got a pretty strong team. I don't do my own marketing. They take care of that. I don't do my own paperwork. They take care of that. All I do is build relationships, negotiate high-level deals, show the right property, and actually do the things that truly you can't duplicate because you're not Evan, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've got this massively successful business now. You're doing millions of dollars in volume per year. A lot of people, mid-20s, that'd be very difficult to even consider walking away from.
Yeah.
So do you mind kind of just like painting a picture there? Like how did that all evolve? Because like a lot of people, that easily could be the pinnacle of like their entire career, a 60-year career.
Yeah, it could be. And that was a hard thing for me to grapple with, because what happened was, and what we're describing here is a really structural side of the business. So we can talk all day, but what people didn't see was, I was tired, Matt. I was really tired. Because there are 3 qualifiers, I believe, that keep you fueled: is inspiration, fascination, and motivation. You've heard me talk about this.
Yeah.
I believe that individuals who are inspired, fascinated, and motivated by their life and their life's work live happier, healthier, more productive lives. The problem for me was very much like you, actually. I'm very purpose-driven. And while I could get into getting people into great homes and helping them achieve their dreams and all the things that great agents say, it wasn't actually fulfilling my purpose, which my purpose is filled when I speak life, truth, structure, and stability into people who deserve to hear it. People who have a purpose and a mission but don't quite know where it actually lands in their life's work, and helping them build a structure to actually go and achieve that, leave their thumbprint, their fingerprint on the world through their unique messaging. That's truly what fills me. And I wasn't doing that, because God forbid your house burns down. What's the first thing people say, right? Oh, we have each other. Thank God we have each other. Oh, we're still here. And it's like, well, but wait, but what if you're not, what if there's something wrong and metaphorically burning inside of you, right? Like that needs to be fixed first, because the house is, you can always rebuild a house. You can't rebuild another Matt.
Yeah.
So I recognize it's like we're focusing on the wrong real estate. I need to be working on the real estate of the spirit, not the real estate that you walk into after your 9 to 5. And what people didn't see was I was in a relationship with my loving and amazing wife, and I had 43 days straight where it was 20-hour work days, and she's dead asleep. And there's one thing, like, yeah, you have to make sacrifices, but imagine years of telling your friends no, to the point that they don't even really invite you anymore. Like, oh yeah, we know you're working hard. Not because they don't want to be with you, but because they don't want to overwhelm you anymore, because when you're there, you're exhausted. And family there are memes in the family and jokes in the family, not in a bad way, but just about you not being present. Or it's kind of like, oh, I love dinner with Evan. It's kind of a joke about how like they'll be having dinner and I'll be like off on the phone.
Yeah.
And I started seeing all these things like, well, wait a minute, time out. Like we live in the city, and we're in a home that, frankly, I thought I would have to be middle-aged before I could ever live in a place like that. And we reached a point where affordability was not really an issue for some of the trappings of success. But boy, was I unfulfilled, because the piece of it was the fulfillment. And so I really looked back at it, Matt, and I thought, my life deserves to be impactful and fulfilling. And neither of those is really not happening. Like I had cash,
yeah,
but it's almost like, accumulating a bunch of these like pillows back here. Like at first it's kind of cool, but what if you had like 30,000 of those? After a while it'd be, I just got more pillows.
Yeah, the first pillow means a lot.
Yeah,
you're like, wow, this floor was really hard, like this is an amazing pillow,
yeah.
But yeah, diminishing returns.
Exactly. And so for me it was more of a move of, I understand the significance of being able to make 7 figures in an honest and earnest and sustainable way and have a little bit of recognition and all of that, but ultimately the need for purpose was so strong that I thought, I'm going to either live a life that's so complacent that I would be ashamed of, where the only thing I have is cash, or I'm going to leave, really try and chase the purpose over profit, knowing that profits usually follow impact, knowing that, frankly, I am a good salesperson and I can make money. It's like, I bet I can structure my life in a way that gives back in a way that's fulfilling. And yeah, I'm going to take a dip for a while. I kind of know, like, you can't walk away from that and immediately walk back into that if you're starting from zero. But it's like, I bet there's something here. I kind of like the beginning of that real estate. I bet that we could do this. And so really sat down and talked and thought and prayed with my wife and looked at the life that we had, and we made the decision together. It's time to move, and so yeah, that was really the reason why. For me, it was a no-brainer. Like, I did not like the person I was becoming. I was stressed, I was irritable, I was anxious. You can't see under my hat, but I get all types of little gray hairs in here from that time. I could never take a time off, and I thought, that's not the life that I actually want. And people they're like, how can you walk away from this?
Yeah.
Like, you've got, so much, but I thought, life isn't worth to own. I don't want to be so poor that the only thing I have at the end of my life is cash.
Was it obviously it was hard, but I'd love to get your perspective, leaving that personal identity behind. A lot of people really struggle. For myself, my viewers will know my backstory. For me, my personal identity was being a very successful CPA before I left that to become a real estate entrepreneur and a YouTuber. So was it hard to leave Evan, the real estate agent, behind?
At first, yes, because so much of my identity and validity was wrapped up in that. But what I noticed is, what happened was I started, building connections and working with businesses and with people, and started speaking a little more and gaining some public attention. And I was gaining public attention as a real estate guy to go into real estate events and talk about real estate. I know that sounds like kind of what we've done here, but I didn't actually talk about real estate at your event, did I? No. I mean, we talked about obsession, we talked about mindset, we talked about the things that are really important on the back end to make sure that the business flows, and a couple of strategy things which are widely applicable, real estate or not. But what I found was I am the real estate guy doing real estate things, and I never really left the circle. I just kind of changed the room that I was in. And I was like, whoa, time out. That's not really why I'm here. And so at first, I kind of leaned into that. But now, it's a part of my past and my history, and I'm very proud of what I did. But once I started recognizing that I was still kind of not actually leaving that environment and really separating myself to where I can plug in if I need to, but I'm not actually a part of that anymore, then it was pretty easy to say, you know what, maybe it's okay to let that part of my life actually slip a little bit further back than it is right now.
Yeah, I love that. Let's talk about obsession. So, because that's a word that has, I think, a lot of different meanings to a lot of different people, right?
Yeah, I imagine some of your viewers are thinking, okay, so I've got this. Yeah.
And so, that's kind of also where you transition to, right?
Yeah, and that's what it was. Is again, you guys say data over drama, right? And so I went back to my life and I looked at the data and I looked at these threads of consistency of, without sounding like an arrogant douche, I've been able to pretty much accomplish really great things when I work to accomplish it. There are things that I failed at because I didn't apply myself, but when I apply myself, I succeed in a really high level. And so I thought, okay, why? Why am I able to, now A, I only do things that I know I'm good at, that's helpful, but B, I noticed that I don't just go in, I go all in, I go deep. And I started finding these words, and that word obsession really resonated with me, not because of the negative connotations to it, but I noticed people who are obsessed, right? Obsession is an all-consuming passion. Now, most of the time it's a negative passion, but it's passion nonetheless. And so I recognized I dove into things in an all-consuming, passionate way. Therefore, I truly believed that I was obsessed. And so I started looking at this concept of obsession and finding what you found, what many of your listeners found. It's what do we think of obsession? We think of addictions and sexual addictions and drug addictions. We think of, if you're an obsessed person, if you're obsessed with another person, you're probably a serial killer, right? And so, all of this negativity, but I thought, no, it's not like that, because, I'm not a serial killer, and I'm not living that life, but I truly believe that I'm obsessed. So then I started to move along this journey, kind of this existential environment of trying to get educated on what would be my definition of obsessed. And that's where we came up with that concept of truly healthy and unhealthy obsession. See, there's usually two cards to everything, right? If I drink too much water, I can put myself in the hospital, right? And so water is fundamentally good, but it still has negative connotations if it's too much. And so I found through process and trying to develop an explanation as to what this might be, that most individuals, when they think of obsession, they think of unhealthy obsession, which is a linear movement which starts with the need to overcome and overcompensate shame, guilt, abandonment, anxiousness, stress. Lack of fulfillment is where it ends. So it's your need to overcompensate for all of these feelings of negativity, where you go and you do something, maybe it looks healthy, but the intention is not to be prosperous. The intention is to hide the shame, right? Like for me, real estate for me was part of an unhealthy obsession. It really was. You know, I loved what I did, but a lot of my work was so hard because I didn't want to face the guilt of my parents, who are both extremely well-educated people, to come back and say, hey, by the way, I failed and I've dropped out of school and I'm a failure. And so that guilt was right behind me. So therefore, I got to make as much money as possible, because that's a good qualifier to go back to my dad and say, hey, look at where we're living, look at how we're living, life is good. You didn't fail as parents because I didn't fail as your son. Mm-hmm. It can look healthy, but it always ends in a lack of fulfillment and regret.
Yeah.
The healthy obsession, in short, is actually a cycle. It's an emotion, a mindset, and a discipline. It's a stage of revelation. The mindset is a stage of preparation, and the discipline is a stage of cultivation. And the emotion, the revelation, is a knowing that you can do more. It's that gnawing, that pulling. You as a CPA, you're sitting there at your desk probably some of these days just thinking, why am I here?
Yeah.
Like, I can do more. If you're watching this, you might be in a similar position. Maybe you're at the office and you've got this in your headphone, and you're thinking, you're watching this and you've got it in your ear because there's something in your spirit pulling in the same way that we're pulling in your ear, right? And you're thinking to yourself, I can do more. That's revelation. It's these tiny little tugs like, come on, you don't need to be here anymore. And then we move into the mindset, which is getting the mind right. It's getting the spirit right, which is preparation. It's planting seeds. It's working your land. Right? There's no possible way that you can actually reap what you sow unless you sow. And you have to first till the land. You have to first plant the seed. You have to actually first water. And this is getting educated. It's you getting into real estate. It's watching your own videos. It's getting educated. It's looking at books. It's talking with people. It's building relationships, doing and failing on a couple of deals. You know, that's preparation. That's all preparation. And then the third is a discipline, which is cultivation, which is your first deal goes well. Yeah. And you get a glimpse into what a better future looks like. Maybe you're in a situation where you finally leave your job and the leave is successful, and you have a package behind you actually giving you insurance and insulation for the next 30 days to where you can go and do that's a moment of cultivation, stepping into your better life. But since it's a cycle, emotion, mindset, discipline, it immediately goes back to a new revelation. You get your first deal, you cultivate, it's an opportunity to truly cultivate this thing that I've been working on for so long. I'm going to put this on the shelf. I have an idea. I bet I can do that again. Back in revelation, back in preparation. And when you work that cycle enough, it produces what I call obsession overflow, which is saturation, which is that you've got 5,000 properties and so much income coming in, you can bless all of those that are important to you in your life. So I recognize that this cycle of healthy obsession is an opportunity for truly gifted individuals to work and understand where they're at within the rhythm of the pace of their life and life's work to produce the results that they're actually looking for in a way that directly relates back to a word we all know, but changes the dialogue so now you can have a better understanding of what it means to live inspired and on purpose.
That's amazing, man. I love it. We need to go deeper into the subject matter, but I think we're going to wrap up this video.
For sure.
Reminder, guys, you can always go back and play it at 0.75 speed or 0.5 speed and really let that soak in, because that was some amazing content there. And it just spoken with such open and honesty. So I really appreciate that, because a lot of people with your level of success and stuff, they don't see the need to be vulnerable anymore. And I think that's how you really impact lives.
It's so important.
And so that's critical to me. So if people want to follow along with you on your journey, what's the best way to do so?
Well, you can follow me on social media. Instagram is my most active platform, actually, but my handles are at Real Evan Stewart. Or you can go to obsessedacademy.com or obsessedconference.com and get plugged in with what we're doing, our community. And if it's something you resonate with, get an opportunity to truly elevate your life and your life's work through some of the programs we offer. Because conversations like this, helping individuals like you actually build the life you can be obsessed about. I mean, this is what we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, so coming up in October 2020 is when...
That's right. Yeah, we've got the Obsessed Conference on October 29th.
I'm really excited. All the Cashflow Tribe is going to be going down there in style. Ben, humble CEO, my business partner with Cashflow Tribe, he's actually going to be emceeing the event, right?
Yes, he is.
And I'm just really excited from a personal level just to get to experience it. It shows so much your level of detail and commitment to exactly what you're doing. This is essentially like the Obsessed Conference, the Obsessed Academy. That's everything for you right now, right? That's your current obsession.
That's it. That's our current obsession. We liquidated investment accounts. We don't have any of our own real estate right now. I mean, we literally burned all ships, and it forced us to focus and go all in. So it's not, if you've been to another event, if you've been to another experience, it's not what you've been to previously. because what we are creating is an opportunity for you to engage and learn and tactically take away strategies in a super fun environment that has never been duplicated before. Like we were talking about, our whole team thought, how do we create almost a really blown out of the water visual experience, like a really high level well, I was going to say conference, but really concert, like almost a really high-level concert, but instead of a band coming in, we have world-class thought leaders, speakers, entrepreneurs. So if that's something that's important to you, I highly recommend that you go to obsessconference.com and come and hang out with Matt, hang out with me, some humble CEO, and bring your friends and change your life in the process.
Yeah, I'm really excited, guys. Come see me in Texas. It's going to be the first time that I'm really doing an event in Texas as well and going to be there. So I would love to hang out with all my American audience. And this truly feels like a one-of-a-kind experience. And this is really like, this is going to be the catalyst event. This is going to be like going back to like, you know, the first Woodstock, in my opinion. That's the feeling I get. Like I get goosebumps when I hear Evan talk, guys. So we're going to throw a link in the video description down below. Make sure you check it out. Follow him along on Instagram and all other social media platforms. You are not going to regret it. And just thanks again, Evan.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Thanks again to Evan. And if you guys were inspired by this, if you got fired up by this, know what you need to do next. The next thing you need to do is come out to the Obsess Conference, which is going to be October 29th in Dallas, Texas. We're crewing up as part of Cashflow Tribe. I think my entire team's going to be there. We're really excited just to surround ourselves with like-minded individuals like Evan and just see what he's got, you know, on tap for us with this Obsess Conference. It's year 2 of it. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I'm really excited. So you guys need to grab your ticket. I'm going to throw a link in the video description down below. Encourage you to jump over and grab it. This isn't any sort of paid sponsorship thing. I just really love Evan, his message, and everything he's trying to do with his Obsessed brand. So I really hope you guys consider supporting him, and I look forward to just meeting up with everyone in Dallas in October.